the concept of getting into a big metal thing and going fast has been around for slightly longer than video games. And so when gaming started to take off, racing was one of the first genres we started to dabble with. In fact, Space Race was the second game released by Atari, after Pong. Very ahead of its time. Throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we can see a wide array of games from various developers and publishers trying their hand at portraying the feeling of cargo fast. To say that most of these games, especially the 2.5D ones, are kinda lame by today's standards would be very reductive and correct. With the rise of 3D though, there's an immediate difference in the way racing games look and feel, obviously. You had your winning runs, your virtua racers, your ridge racers, then wow! Need for Speed. Sorry. Road and Track presents The Need for Speed. This monolithic, multi-million-dollar cash cow of an intellectual property exists purely because EA was sponsored by Road and Track. You know, the car magazine. What? Don't tell me you don't read. You know, whatever. You are forgiven. This time. Honestly, the cars and the racing aren't all I want to talk about here. What I really want to talk about, and what I think you'll get a kick out of, is how on the one hand, the series has some of the best, goofiest, dumbest shit on the planet, and on the other, how incredibly influential it was despite, or maybe because of that. Pretty much every single Need for Speed game can tell you something about game design, car culture, and culture in general, circa year of release. Also, you might want to stick around to the end. The last game is by far the most fun to talk about. For now, though, let's start from the top.
Need. Need. Speed. Need. Speed. Holy shit.
This game is amazing. It has everything. Killer music, pictures of cars, immersive chases.
Okay.
And a pretty solid handling model. Playing it for the first time in 2021, I gotta say I kinda like how it feels. It's a lot slower and more methodical than most of its contemporaries, but it's definitely not a simulation. I like the balance, even if I am very bad. What's really interesting from a design angle, though, is how simple everything is. For example, there are exactly no customization options. Like, not even the fucking color. Progression, something that would later come to define the entire series, did not exist here, and would not for years to come. It's so quaint by today's standards, but back then a handful of cars, tracks, and a decent handling model was pretty much all you needed. A simpler time. Hi, my name's Noodle, but you might know me better as mildly successful YouTube sellout. If there's one thing I hate, it's gamers. If there's two things I hate, it's gamers, and being unable to watch Air Bud Golden Receiver on Netflix. That's why I use today's sponsor, Private Internet Access VPN. Many VPNs today have questionable marketing and questionable security. I have turned down several offers from others for this reason. That's right. PIA genuinely does some pretty cool stuff though. They've proven in court more than once that they don't log anything, their apps are open source, they even give you direct command line access. Wow! Here is a cow code. It's real, try it. Getting started with private internet access is easy and can be used on up to 10 devices at once. And with technical support available 24/7, you're sure to be saying to yourself, wow, this sure is a VPN. Browse in confidence with PIA's 30-day money-back offer, guaranteed. Here's how to order.
Visit https://www.privateinternetaccess.com/noodle. Visit now to order your copy of Private Internet Access VPN for less than $2 a month and 4 extra months completely free. Click now.
So anyway, a lot of people were divided by the first game's slower and more grounded approach to racing. It was enough of a gripe from enough people that EA would course correct. Like with cars. With Need for Speed 2. There are either 2 or 3 driving modes in this game, depending on your gender. This is the simulation mode. In the same year, we also got Need for Speed V-Rally, which is a fake game, because in Europe it was just called V-Rally, but when EA localized it to the US, they called it Need for Speed V-Rally, even though it plays nothing like Need for Speed. Then, V-Rally 2 came out and was called V-Rally 2 in Europe, and Need for Speed V-Rally 2 in the US, except for the Dreamcast version, which was called Test Drive V-Rally. Test Drive, of course, being another racing franchise in direct competition with Need for Speed, made by the Need for Speed people before the Need for Speed people made Need for Speed. Try to keep up. EA is really cool, and so from this point onward, Need for Speed became everyone's favorite, an annual release franchise. Yeah. I'm sure everyone at Canada and Seattle were thrilled by this decision. By today's standards, Hot Pursuit might look a little like someone grabbed your glasses the funny way, but back in '98 when it came out on PC, it was one of the prettiest games ever. Look at these Spyro-looking ass colors. Also, the cops are back.
You're busted! Don't let me catch you!
High Stakes did a great job of building on the foundation of Hot Pursuit while adding several new features, such as vehicle damage, an actual campaign, and a high stakes mode where you can race other people and whoever wins takes the loser's car. Forever. That's sick. Why would they drop that? Let me steal my friend's car. Next one's a big one for me. In Y2K, we got Porsche Unleashed. Not as cool a name as MotorStorm Apocalypse, but, I mean, you know, thanks for trying. Now, this one is especially quirky in that, although two different developers have been working on the PC and PlayStation versions of the game separately for a while, this was the first time that the PlayStation guys instead handled the PC version. The PS game was actually outsourced to the guys who made V-Rally. The result is that these two games drifted into wildly different directions. Like with cars. They play nothing alike. The PC version is more of a simcade title, whereas the PlayStation game was... What is happening? Borderline unfinished. These are not the same game. One of them is good. Nowhere are you told this information, and also the covers look exactly the same. To be clear, the good one is the PC one. No contest. I'm gonna say it was the first real video game I ever played. Depending on your political beliefs, you might disagree with me on that, but whatever your vibe, I just find it charming as hell.
That's your first lap. You're in second place.
Speed 5 is one of the most Y2K-ass games you can play. It's up there with, like, Wetrix. Everything from the gameplay to the graphics to the music. Hell, even the UI, it all just screams fly, dope, hella, jiggy. These graphics are probably a large part of why I find classic game visuals so charming. I mean, look at this. Come on, that's genuinely pretty. Color choice and the composition here, just, ugh, beautiful. It's got some problems. Driving feels less like operating one of the most nimble and lightweight vehicles in the world, and more like wearing Heelys while attempting to pilot a boat. But in 2000, I guess you could just call that a simulation and get away with it. No one really cared. We were all too busy downloading malware off Napster and enjoying low security air travel. After Porsche, though, things really kicked into high gear. Like with cars. 2000 saw the release of Hot Pursuit 2. If Porsche's aesthetic was slick and smooth, HP2 was just straight fucking poppin'. As a kid, I thought this was real. This was the first game to be released during the 6th gen. It was also the first time EA Seattle would lead development on a Need for Speed game. And also the last time, because they were shut down by EA proper immediately after. An Omen. The game's alright. I grew up with it, so there's a lot of history here, but going back, I think I like everything about it except for the actual game itself. The environments are nice, the car selection is pretty solid, there's licensed music now, including but not limited to a song called Keep It Comin' by Unkle Kracker. But the handling is stiff, the cops are underwhelming, it kind of sounds bad, I don't know, overall it just kind of A PS2 version also existed, but EA, in their infinite wisdom, decided that the console that had the largest market share by far would receive a version of the game made by an entirely different studio with a fraction of the experience. Probably to, I don't know, meet deadlines or launder money. Here's the thing though. Despite sharing most of the same features and design choices on paper, that PS2 version was better. Like, way better. Better than anyone expected. Like, it had no business being this good. It was weighty, responsive, everything felt faster due to the handling model and the more narrow courses. The cop chases were way better, and in the PS2 exclusive You Are the Cop mode, we see one of the first ever appearances of nitrous in a racing game. Boost. You know, the thing every single arcade racer after the mid-2000s has. Like, every single one. Because an arcade racer without boost is like Mario without jump. Yeah, Need for Speed popularized it. This was supposed to be just a supplementary side thing so the stationoids weren't left out, but it ended up being so much better than the actual game that Black Box, a then young studio with limited experience in general, never mind racing games, was immediately given full control over the development of the entire NFS franchise. That would never happen today, because that is insane. It's also the best decision EA has ever made. By this point, tuner culture had been around for a good long while, especially overseas, but in 2001 this low-budget indie documentary came out, and people kinda liked it, Black Box included. Consequently, 2 years later, we see the somewhat anticipated sequel. And Underground. Tonally, this game was a complete change in direction for the series. Like, the licensed music has taken a sharp turn from late 90s butt rock into tracks like Get Low for the menus and just full-on middle school angst for the racing. The winding countrysides are gone, replaced with traffic-filled city streets, all in the dead of night. No more exotic supercars, this game starts you off in a Dodge Neon. I love it. It's just overflowing with personality. This game's legacy is second to one. I mean, people love this thing. You get fucking assassinated if you're talking shit on it. Customization, handling, women, pretty much the entire Black Box era gameplay loop was born right here. They also made some crazy improvements to the audio. It's probably one of the best sounding games of its time. And thanks to Car Movie, this game also firmly solidified boost as a staple arcade racing mechanic. All around, this is just an incredibly important game, and it absolutely deserves the legacy it has. Also, it's not very good. Now, granted, there is a lot of... Hello? Don't get me wrong, I love this game, but there are a couple big issues holding it back. The egregious reuse of tracks, the obnoxious rubber banding, the psychotic balancing, and the countless other compromises that tend to happen when you put a studio through a perpetual meat grinder of yearly release windows are all things we either failed to notice or just put up with in 2003. It's like a dubstep. You know, I still like a lot of it, but I am aware that it sucks ass. Later installments would identify and take steps to mitigate a lot of these issues. Hell, sometimes they'd even succeed. Case in point, Underground 2 is just a far better game all around, primarily because it features a remix of Riders on the Storm featuring Snoop Dogg rapping about Need for Speed, dropping bars such as "Comin in first, never in last, because my car too fast." Zoom. Better handling, more customization, more map variety, better AI, better UI, better graphics, and an actual open world, which was impressive in 2004. The list goes on. And it's fucked up, because despite there being an advertisement featuring tiny cars driving on Big Woman, it didn't sell nearly as well. That's alright though. They made up for it next year. I remember being on a school playground and talking with some friends about how it's kinda lame that the last two NFS games have been set at night. I was stupid. I sure wish they'd bring back daytime for the 360, I said, and boy oh boy did that monkey's paw have some plans for me, cause the daytime is back, and in 7th gen fashion it looks like I'm trapped inside a urinal. Look, don't get me wrong, I'm not one to turn down cake, I'm just not into the color. If you played games in 2005, you heard about Most Wanted. It's probably the peak of the series. I mean, it made waves. some of them yellow. This was the first game in the series to be released on any 7th gen console. The ubiquitous urine of the 2010s wasn't a thing yet, and so this aesthetic was actually pretty novel at the time, if you can believe it. It's a real shame too, because buried underneath the filter are some really nice base colors. If they had just employed color theory instead of piss theory, they could have gotten what I think would have been the best of both worlds. Fucked up and sad. Although I will say, being transported to the piss dimension does make sense for this game. For my money, no NFS stands out from the endless sea of forgettable racists unless it can establish a unique identity. And while I do not appreciate urine as an aesthetic, there's no denying that this game's got one hell of a personality. Despite playing very similarly to Underground, Most Wanted is a very different experience. For one thing, it's faster. A lot faster. Probably the fastest one yet. I could go into the copious amounts of rebalancing of every other mechanic that no doubt had to happen to make this change work, but instead I want to highlight the amount of speed vibes present here. Other games, even in the same series, even at higher speeds, fail to match Wanted's sense of aggression and power. Pushing 200 in this game can genuinely be frightening. Racevic put it really well when he described it as total control over the vehicle, but just barely. Officer, you are not going fast enough. Aesthetically, we've taken a complete 180 from Underground. The glamour is gone, bro. We're in the bad part of town. Or as I like to call it, the town. Roads are dirty and cracked, buildings are showing signs of wear, there's litter and graffiti everywhere, but more importantly than all of that, this game has real-life people. Most Wanted features a questionable cast of characters who all think they're the hottest shit to walk the earth, despite coming off about as intimidating as a stock Civic. Car joke. People love to clown on these cutscenes like they're the worst thing ever, which is stupid. The based opinion is that they are the worst thing ever, and it's amazing.
Razor, he shadowed me. I couldn't shake up.
This is Razor. We don't see much of him, or anyone, really. There's almost no story in this game, but I feel like Razor's the kind of guy who will tell you everyone calls him Razor, even though nobody actually calls him that. Except Ronnie. Ronnie definitely calls him Razor. I swear, he says every line like a pissed-off stoner in a drive-thru. It's awesome.
My 60-footer, quarter mile, whatever you want to throw on the table.
I love this. His canonical real name is Clarence. It's awful, in the best way. It really feels like these guys are having a blast with their roles, especially Dean McKenzie, who plays Sergeant Cross.
Everyone?
Everyone!
In-game, though, the cops are kind of an anomaly. Like the rest of the game, you're basically expected to take them 100% seriously, but unlike everything else, the performances aren't campy. They're just good. Now, this is strange, because this is the same game that features Ronnie, but it really works. When you're out racing, it's all fun and games, egos and emos, but when the police come out, shit gets serious real fast. Most Wanted may be a racing game, but you don't play Most Wanted for the racing. You play it for the cop chases, because fuck GTA, fuck Watch Dogs, fuck Lego City, there's not one game on Earth that does cop chases as well as Most Wanted. I am not kidding. You know, previous speed games have always handled cops the same kind of way. They're like a modifier. They put an interesting spin on the racing you'd be doing anyway, but not much else. This time though, if the race ends and the cops are still on you, there's no main menu to go back to. You can't exit the game. The button is gone. You're not allowed to leave. Sit down! The only way out of a cop chase is to just outrun or demolish everything the PD throws at you, which becomes more and more and more as your heat level increases. Basically, the heat system determines how much of an evil being you are. Cause trouble, heat goes up. Evade the cops, heat goes up. Park a car in stadium, that's okay. The more heat, the more you are considered deranged, and the more aggressive the fuzz is gonna be. Levels 1 and 2 are kind of a joke, but once you hit 3, they fucking activate. By level 5, you're like the only thing that matters. They aren't just ramming you off the road, they're head-on ramming you with 10-ton SUVs. They're throwing knives onto the floor. The whole force is in goddamn Corvettes and helicopters. The city is gamers, and you're a fucking menace. You're out here driving through golf courses, stadiums, college campuses, demolishing buildings, detonating gas stations. It is stupid. Even the way them boys drive makes them seem like they're all just desperate and unhinged. Half the time they'll be utilizing in-game tactics to strategically trap you in gridlock. The other half they'll be stumbling over each other, flying through the air, or rear-ending mom vans. Now I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like that isn't largely due to the AI being kinda stupid. Like, this ran on a GameCube, they didn't really have much choice. But it never stops being entertaining to see dudes throw themselves into oncoming traffic or drive off a fucking cliff if it means slowing you down. They will truly stop at nothing. They're borderline suicidal. And that's real cool. Because when I'm going 210 on I-35 in a goddamn Lamborghini Linguini, so am I. Adding to that sense of tension and chaos are the aforementioned performances. The game does the fear thing, where even though enemies aren't particularly smart, they do a really good job of appearing smart by telegraphing to the player what they're thinking in a way that feels authentic. There's nothing quite like being able to hear your enemies broadcasting your grid coordinates in real time.
Unit heading up to the code 3 chase. Suspect was last reported northbound, past the penitentiary. Containment is to include immediate...
I can't prove it, but I swear, as chases get more intense, you can actually hear the cops getting angrier, more stressed in response to your bullshit. And it doesn't stop there. The dudes are constantly updating each other on plans, tactics, and status reports, using a mixture of plain callouts and their own version of 10 code.
Don't let this guy get away. Watch the 1073 setup, maybe 1075.
What this means is that if you pay attention, you can effectively anticipate almost every move they make to stay on top of things, transforming a cool aesthetic detail into an active gameplay mechanic players can use to their advantage. It's so sick! And as if that wasn't enough, it's all glued together by this completely over-the-top CSI Miami-ass soundtrack, which not only did I not do justice the last time I covered, I also just blatantly lied about how it actually works. Great job, past me. I'm stupid and bad at writing. Also, my favorite YouTuber. I know who you're gonna say. That guy's a pedophile. Oh. No matter what, anytime a chase breaks out, the game immediately hits the brakes on whatever song is playing and slaps on this hammy orchestral shit that dynamically adapts to the action. There are 4 themes in total, and yes, the other 3 are just as over the top and goofy. This one might be my favorite though, because of its wacky-ass time signature. Like I said, it's all adaptive too, so the game basically scores the entire chase live. They got tunes for scrambling around downtown with like 11 cops on your ass. They got shit for reckless driving. Almost getting busted strips away most of the instruments while the drums go ham. And making it out has everything else just pour right back in. I could honestly rant about this game until I die and then meet God, but it's far from perfect. Maybe if EA hadn't enforced yearly installments it could have been, but despite all the positives, I can't recommend this game to modern audiences. It's kind of a mess mechanically. I could elaborate on that, but I don't care. You know, something I've come to realize over the past couple years is that You could perfect a video game mechanically. You could get it working as good as possible, but unless it's also, you know, fun to look at and cool, most people aren't going to give a shit. Speaking from experience. People don't look back fondly on games like Mario 64, GTA 3, or fucking Sonic Adventure because they aged well. Beyond the nostalgia, the two things these games are really remembered for, I think, are their innovations and their character. You can feel the passion behind every janky animation or shitty texture or questionable design choice. Like, you can tell they were having fun. By simultaneously chasing trends and making waves, every new Need for Speed became an opportunity to explore new technologies, new visual styles, new ways to play. Despite only minor alterations to the actual moment-to-moment gameplay, despite being an absolute roller coaster of quality, despite having only 1 year of development time, each installment was presented so well that they all managed to feel entirely unique. That will never stop being impressive. This kind of thing was especially noticeable around the Black Box era and before, and it basically died immediately after. Now, I could talk about that for a long time, but I gotta go buy wall supplies. Here's a little note. Good catching up. See you in 8 months. Hi, this is Omnipotent Voice Noodle here to say if this video does well and y'all like it, I'll probably make a part 2. Also, thank you to Vocal Booth To Go for sending me a Vocal Booth To Go. They make quality shit. Here's what I sound like when I don't use the booth. It sounds real bad, huh? Check them out if you are so inclined. Halo video is coming. I don't know when. Don't hold your breath.